I'm Laura Chandler, and welcome back to the Sacred Stream radio podcast and part two of my interview with the founding director of Fostering Connections, Fritz Clay. Fritz is a world renowned stylist, owner of Hair Play Salon, and creator of the hair care product Set, which he developed specifically for multi textured hair. Fritz grew up in foster care in the San Francisco Bay Area, which he attributes to giving him a profound experience of love and family, and he created Fostering Connections to give back to the foster care community. On our last episode, Fritz describes how he was abandoned as a newborn outside of a hospital. Our conversation continues with Fritz's remarkable story of finding his birth parents and the twists and turns that have come with that. His is an inspiring story of love, loss, abandonment, and belonging. If you're enjoying this podcast, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps the channel grow.
Laura, I've been famous all my life. I was in
You have.
As
Out of the
the man,
world famous.
as the Chronicle says about John Clay. But anyway, he calls and says, "Look, I just saw a lady run from the phone booth, and I think you should go check. I think she just dropped a baby off, and you should go check." This is 10:45 p.m. Hangs up the phone. Well, there's phone booths. There's no cell phones. He's not calling from his house saying, "Oh, I just saw out my window, lady." This is someone that's obviously a part of that drop off, which, thank you, sir. And probably hid behind the car. A lady comes out. It's a nurse, and she gets the baby out of the phone booth, and baby's me. Okay, he's safe. And then, carry on. So 3 days later, I was in my foster mother's arms, Nettie Mae, and she was an incredible woman, and she had already fostered children before, so that's why it was just like, it was very easy, and for her to for me to be in her home 3 days later, and she was part of that situation, and I never looked back. Her husband's name was Frizzell, and so she called me Fritz. I was little Frizzell, I was Fritz, and that's where Fritz came from. And I've been Fritz my whole life.
Yeah.
But my legal name is John Webster Clay, and, which I just think is incredible. I never liked that name my whole life, especially the John and the Webster. The Clay was okay, but the John Webster, Webster was like a dictionary or what, I don't know.
Yeah.
And John was like, well, I need to go to the John, I'm just
Yeah.
like, so I'm just like, these type of things were just like, my childish, thoughts. But it's just, it's probably many reasons, but that story, first of all, was locked away. That was tucked and locked away, and I was never coming out. Nettie Mae was my mother. My father was Frizzell. They call me Fritz, but my name was John Webster Clay. So the city named me John Webster Clay, which I thought was, when I look at it now, it's like, wow, that was really clever.
Yeah.
John for John Doe and Webster Clay for the cross streets of the phone.
Yeah, somebody was thinking.
So I get John Webster Clay, which actually is a beautiful name. And it's, it resonates, but that is my story, the John Webster Clay. So, I have my, that's part of like when I'm writing my story, it's the story of John Webster Clay, because that is, we're talking about a street name.
Yeah.
So moving forward, fast forward, my mother was amazing. She passed when I was 11, and that was crushing, so here I am, abandoned, and then 11 years of my family and my mother, and then she passes. But she instilled so much in me of love and respect and respecting women. She had 5 sisters, and she was a beautiful African-American woman from Texas and New Orleans, and, had that Jill Scott look about her. And, it was like, you respect women around that family. That was a family of respectful women. And, I just got a lot of love, learned some amazing recipes, gumbo being one of my majors. And which is a whole nother story, but, just amazing. So moving forward, fast forward, and what brought me back to the fostering, um, uh, my nonprofit or organization, with working with foster parents and their children, is I always knew that at someday, some way, I was gonna give back to the foster care
Yeah.
system. It's just that's I just didn't know how I was gonna segue there because I had never released my story from within, so I could never speak out loud. Being a foster child, that was just not an option. It was not gonna be a discussion. I was from Nettie, Maine, her family, and their family's from Texas and New Orleans, and I was too, and don't I look Creole, and I can make some gumbo, and, all of that, we just really put so much on ourselves, and I just realized, in this time in my life, and when the pandemic shook things up and it really allowed me to go go deep, go inside, and, with that, I went inside and I pulled the story out, the story had to come out, it's like my daughter started with the 23 Me, as I said, and then one thing led to another, and then I found the mother that, my biological mother. It led to, months later, and then the father. All this stuff I never thought in life,
Mhm.
Laura, that this would ever happen. I was 55 years old when this happened. I was like, "Oh my god, what a blessing. I get to have 2 feet on the ground. I get to be, my true self. I get to, like, just speak it out, and part of that becomes, like, I'm a foster child.
Yeah.
I am like, I'm okay, and there's so many stories that I've heard, through, my career and behind the chair being, 40 years behind the chair, and I'm always talking to my clients and loving up on them and, like, giving them whatever I possibly can, and and the whole time never really, allowing myself to tell my story, you know?
Mm.
My
Mhm.
story was never told. I'd
Yeah.
hear their story, and my story could have, at the time, so many times, could have been very, impactful for
Mhm.
them, very helpful,
Yeah.
and reciprocated to me, but I would tell someone else's story for them to make them feel better, and maybe even an anonymous name with my story maybe, but not complete, bits and bytes, but never, um, my story never was told, and so I just say that because now my story is being told. I'm loud and proud about it. I say literally, I'm a foster child and I'm proud of it. I'm
Yeah.
proud of being able to say that I was fostered and loved because so many people, when you mention now foster anything, a foster child, or I was oh my God, I've I feel for you. I'm just so glad you made it. And it's like,
Mhm.
that's not me, but I do realize that is a lot of people, so I'm very grateful that that wasn't me,
Yeah.
but I wanna do everything I possibly can to help that not be anyone else,
Yeah.
So whatever I can do to help avoid that feeling of not feeling loved, um, as a foster child or any child, but definitely starting in the foster care system, let me just do that, play my part with the hair part. Let's just start
Mhm.
from the ground and see if we can, and maybe while I'm teaching the parent, I might be assessing that that parent might not be the best parent for the child. And then
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in and say, "Hey, I was teaching you how to do hair, but I don't think
Double
that's the
check this.
not the right mama for the."
Yeah. Yeah. It's
But
so important. It's so important what you offer, and so easily, as you said earlier, overlooked, something that people might not think of,
yes,
but
yes,
so
yes,
important.
overlooked. And Laura, to have that, back to my story, to be carrying something that is so day to day for life, it's like you're carrying all this weight, and it's like you don't realize how much weight you're really carrying with, a deep secret like that, an
Yeah.
abandonment. And I was like, wow, how did I do that? and we just, you put things away. And I mean, I didn't have like anger or like, oh, why did my parents do that? Why that happened to me? That was just a story that was like, okay, that's, whoever dropped me off, they needed to, and
Mhm.
bless them. And I hope they
Mhm.
lived a good life, and I hope they can laugh and enjoy life like myself.
Yeah.
But still, there's pain that you avoid, and you don't realize until I just really let it go. And I was like, wow, this was a lot.
Yeah.
And then my daughter comes to me. I want to make this point because I just really want to create it in my part of my story when I just really unfold. And I know I might feel like it's all over the place, but it all comes to one place.
Yeah.
And it's a place of just really truth and love, and just being able to be free, and feel like I am free to say, yes, I was a foster child, but I never grew up like, oh, I'm a foster child. That was my mother, that my family, my other foster kids. There was four others that was in the house. We were all sister and brothers.
Yeah.
We were never treated any different, and actually we were treated, I feel like, better than a lot of kids that weren't foster kids. We
Yeah.
always had a lot of food on the table. We always had a lot of celebrations, and it was all good.
Yeah.
But, I go back to, carrying that story, so tucked away, and turns out discovering my mother, she did the same thing. I have 2 sisters that I discovered through her. No
Mhm.
one ever knew anything about me, obviously, and, she carried for 55 years, I carried my story tucked away, and, being abandoned, and for 55 years, she carried that story tucked away as someone that abandoned a child. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's, some deep stuff. But going into my carrying that story, my daughter comes to me when I discover my mother, and she's the one that gave me the 23andMe, and um, she's just so upset when she approached me, and then she came over, and she's crying. It's like, and I'm like, why, why are you so upset? Why, like, it's okay. I, we found the mother, it's okay.
Yeah.
And she says something that was so profound, and that will always be on my mind and heart. And I will always incorporate that in the story any story I'll write. And it's so important. And I really want to speak on it whenever I can. But she was like, she literally said, I am so um, happy that you no longer have to carry somebody else's shame.
Mm. Wow.
I was not accepting that. First of all, I was ashamed of my story, so I never told it because I was ashamed.
Mm.
And I was ashamed of a story was that was brought onto me by someone else. I did not abandon myself.
Mhm.
I didn't put myself in there,
Mhm.
but I carried it as a child, and it's like the shame carried on,
Mhm.
and we often carry other people's shame, and
Right.
I refuse, that's no more. But I refuse to hear stories where I can interject or go in and say, "Look, you don't have to do this," you know? And I can contest that I did it for 55 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
and, so
And you didn't get to actually meet your mom because she passed shortly before you discovered her, but you've gone on to develop a really good relationship with your sisters by that
yeah,
mother. And
yes, I did I was it was 1 month, I discovered her, 1 month, after she passed. She
yeah.
passed in, July, and I discovered, who she was in August.
Mm.
And I was 6 months on the trail. I was close, 6 months of it, but, some things aren't meant to be, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, I have young pictures of her that I got from my sister. My sister, she, absolutely just loves her brother. I have 2 sisters and 1 in LA. She loves her brother, and our relationship, we're learning and we're growing and, we're obviously getting to know each other. But it just feels so good when they just out of nowhere, someone will say like, "Oh my God, you remind me so much of your mother." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I get to feel that." So that's always like, whoa,
Yeah.
Um, and but but yeah, I have young pictures of all these young pictures of my mother, and because she has a bunch of photos, and she's very, very organized, so she'd have all these different. So she let me take a bunch of photos and take pictures of them. So I have a lot of young pictures,
Mm.
or that's what I hold on to. I was like, this is the lady that dropped me off.
Yeah,
She was 21 years old, so I'm like, all these pictures. This was my time.
that's right. Yeah.
The older pictures, I don't, like, show off too much. I mean, she looked great and fine, but I I know this 21-year-old,
Always.
that was my mother. So, and I have the blessing, a year and a half later, after doing the research, which I thought never in a million years would I be able to find, um, either one, any biological anything, the way I was dropped off. But, with technology now and, forensic and, DNA and everything that's happening, a miracle happened. I know both my parents. I know who my mother is and was, and I'm learning a lot. She had a nonprofit. She tried to save every little Black boy, as I understand, from going to getting a prison system, or going into getting kept them out of the system. So
Yeah.
basically, they would get a misdemeanor, something petty or whatever, and they would on their way through the system, and she would catch it there, and somehow they would land on her desk, all these misdemeanors, and she would go in and advocate in the courts for them with a mayor program or some vocational program or something that would replace jail time, you know,
Wow.
and they respected her for that, and she did it for 27 years,
Yeah.
and that was
This
unbelievable.
and she was
Um,
thinking of you.
yeah. That's what my sister said in LA. She does, she has has a lot of words, and, we're learning each other, but, she says some things that are super powerful, and that was one of them. She was like, I she's not very emotional,
Yeah.
and she came with emotion, and she said, "Look, I thought my mother was trying to save every little Black boy," and she used the term, "Black kid," 'cause, like, a lot of them were African American. And because she was trying to save my father, because their father was like he had challenges, alcoholism and this and that or whatever, but she just thought, she was always trying to help, save their father, which they knew their father. And she said, "And now I realize it was you." She said,
Mhm.
"You were the missing link. It's because of you that she was doing the work."
Mm. Mhm. Now, there was a twist. And first of all, Fritz, just reflecting on that, it's so profound and says so much about who your mom was,
Mhm.
and where you get your own, deep empathy and desire to help and to give back, right?
Yes.
So, really remarkable. And then there's a twist as we move into you also discovered your father and that you have brothers and you've gotten to know your brothers, but a
Yeah.
little bit different outcome, to that, and I don't know how much you wanna talk about that, but
I'm trying not to drop some tears on your show. I'm like,
I know, it's a
don't
little
be like,
alright.
"Woo!"
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. Well, look,
yeah,
but plus,
yeah.
everybody it's probably gonna be a Netflix movie or something, in the near future because Fritz is, you what a remarkable I mean, just stopping right there. Wow, what a remarkable,
Yes, yeah,
unbelievable
and I
journey.
mean, to have this, I knew that it was so much more to me, and in this life journey that I've lived. I've always
Yeah.
known that there was just something that was just always, and I always reach for it. I'm like, "Hey, I'm patient, it's coming,"
Mhm.
so, I didn't know it was gonna be, it was gonna take 55 years, but, it's it's still coming. But I truly feel like I have that Willy Wonka golden ticket,
Mhm.
it's just it's been there, it's in the back pocket, it's arrived, and and Laura, it's so beautiful that it encompasses just who and what I'm about, which is just people and love and making people feel good,
Mhm.
and it makes me feel good in return, and it's just honest. That's just the way it is, and everything else, the material, whatever, that comes, and I've worked really hard, so I'm never, I never want for anything, I'm all good. But I'm so much more enriched when I can share a story and people share theirs, and it feels right,
Mhm.
And my story is gonna really impact people in a very positive, loving way.
Yeah.
You can take a chunk of what feels sad, and my tears aren't. I mean, my tears are kind of confused because I can't really say my tears aren't from sadness because I know that I have lived with a lot of sadness and pain and ignored it.
Yeah.
But I have so much joy and love to that. It's just a mixture, and then that's where that gumbo comes in. You know,
Yeah.
you start putting out. Oh, here it comes! Here comes the crab! Here comes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a deep, you're deeply feeling and,
yeah,
you hold a lot, and you hold a lot for other people.
yes,
So it's part of your empathy, and I always think the ability, you know, for me, because, I cry a lot, I'll cry here now, but that's my strength, and I think it's your strength too that you can go to those depths and
hmm,
hold it and
yeah,
demonstrate it for other people,
yeah.
you know?
And I feel like we're a lot and Laura, we've been friends and clients, and
Yeah.
we've loved each other for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, we go back some years.
Yes.
Love it,
You
but
you
it's so
sty I met you because you styled my hair for my, Learning to Be Human album, and I was like, "Ah, this is my guy right here." And you have been for a long
and
time.
I was so excited to do that, and you were just like a rock star coming in the salon. I'm like, yes, and I thrive on that. I just love like people that are just doing things and they just love what they're doing. And whatever I can do to help and support that, that's where I'm at, first and foremost, because it's gonna come back,
Yeah.
to me in a very positive way. I have enough to give, and I just
Yeah.
feel like, just continuously giving. So it's a blessing to have this story of mine and the way it's playing out that I get to tell my story the way that uh, the way that feels good, and it's emotional and it's real and it's enlightening and it's positive,
Mhm.
all those things. And I'm just blessed that I don't have to tell a story that's a different story. You know,
Yeah.
I could have found a parent that was, whatever, whatever, and then in addition to that, Laura, I found the father, which was an a whole added cherry on the top, which was like, wow, like I get to see where I come from. I get to see like the DNA. I get to see what my mother looked like. She's so beautiful.
Mhm.
I was always going through, it's like, I know that my whole life I've been like a looker. People look and
Mhm.
like, whoa,
Good
that's a
looking man.
that's a pretty boy. And it carries on, but you don't know where it comes from, and you have all these people that are constantly asking you, like, what's your background?
Yeah.
And then luckily I came up the time that I did where it was like almost rude to ask someone's background. So I was
Mhm.
able to skate through not having to talk about it so much.
Mhm.
And as time has gone on, then that became a norm where someone just will boldly ask you, where do you come from? Like, what's your ethnicity? And it's
Yeah.
just became like uh, you know, a normal question, a common question. And, that's not how I grew up. Where we didn't ask, directly stuff like that. So I was able to get
So I
away
want
from
I wanna just hop in there for a minute because I remember you told me something recently where, people would question your ethnicity,
Yeah.
question people and African American community would question your blackness
Yes.
and how hurtful that was because you're a light-skinned black man. Your mom was
Right.
white, your father was
Yeah.
black. And
Mhm.
part of finding your father was because he is a black icon. I mean, we will say he's a well-known,
He is a black man.
he is an icon
Yeah.
and well known.
Yes.
And it was reinforcing for you that, yes, I am a black man, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you are very
And
handsome.
isn't that something, Laura? The irony of that is to find my father, and he is a famous, iconic African American black man, very beautiful, but that's, a exploitation and blaxploitation movies and the whole bit, and
Sports.
known. And just the idea, I mean, I even watched his movies when I was 12 years old. I come out of the theater and, we're karateing each other and we like doing all his moves, not realizing that, maybe some of those moves are coming out very natural and I didn't even realize it. It's like
and you're the spitting image of his sons, your brothers, who you
Yes,
lost a relationship with.
yes. And the joy of that, Laura, is I just can't even explain. It's like, it's unfortunate that he wants to have nothing to do with me. He doesn't want to, didn't even want to meet me, whatever. Just no, he wasn't there. That's fine. But it's all confirmed. And, my brothers took a DNA test and came right back right away, half brother. And we look like twinsies, just about, brother and I was like, and we knew, but it was just, the confirmation. So all that aside, the beauty of it, and, the heartfelt, like the just that solid piece for me is like, to know I get to know where I come from,
Yeah.
you know, and I get to share that, I get to speak a story that is truth. I no longer have to live in story. I lived in story my whole life.
Mhm.
"Oh, I make gumbo, I'm from this and my fa," that's, I still speak of that, because I'm not, in any way, diminishing, that those stories that I lived in, but I'm no longer living in story. Like, I'm giving you direct, like, I know where I come from. I know that my father comes from Indiana. I know my mother's father comes from Italy. It's like I have these stories. I have this I'm learning my heritage, but I have like a true understanding of where I come from, what
Yeah.
my DNA, what it's made of, so I can share that with my children. That's why my daughter got me to 23andMe. She said, "Dad, it's time for us to find out what we're made of."
Yeah.
She wasn't thinking that we're going to find a whole, story and
Right.
and all of this, but it's been amazing.
And, and that's the other part of your story, which is that you have this amazing family, you have 2 beautiful daughters, amazing, beautiful wife, and you've created this beautiful world for them and for yourself.
Yes.
So,
And they've, obviously this is all new to me. Like, I mean, most people, they know what they're made of their whole life or whatever.
yep.
But I've only known truly what I'm made of the last, because everything else was living. And like I said, a story is a guessing game. It's like, and people are like, and like you said, like challenging, like, "You're not black," or
Yeah.
whatever. And then I have friends that, and I've grown up a black man my whole life.
Yeah.
And I had to fight for that. But do you really know? And this is the inside. But of course I knew, but to have the confirmation, to have, like, just to be clear with that, the percentages, but, bottom line is you feel different. You really do when
Yeah.
really where it comes from. Because I used to be a clear advocate of like, look, you know who you are, love who you are, whatever. You don't like all the other stuff. Who cares? Who needs to know? And I still am. I still stand strong to that. If you don't know and can't know, but I think that I'm going to be one of those advocates and one of those people that are going to be connecting people to researchers. And it's like, if you want to know, I'm going to help you know. We're going to do this, because I feel that excited about, um, you know, us being able to know who you are.
Yeah.
I just think it's a sense of freedom. And oh, what I was going to say with my family, and thank God that we've loved each other for a very long time before this, so they could like
Yeah.
handle my continuing talking about like, because I'll just come out of nowhere and just be like, oh my God, I can't believe that I know who my mother and father is. And then I want to talk about it. It's just something, it's just a conversation that just it never gets old,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
It's a huge story. And, you and I have been talking about this story of yours for years now because I feel like I've been with you on the uncovering of
Yes,
that.
yes, yes.
And, and all that that comes with it. But
You were part of the beginning therapy because I needed therapy when this happened, but therapy is like standing behind the chair and talking to 6, 7,
Mhm.
people a day, and then you have, maybe 2 or 3 out of that day that are absolutely amazing, and they are your therapists, and you guys help each other, and you're definitely one of those people.
Oh, I'm glad.
Make a difference, and it was very difficult to tell my story too because you've known me for so long, and I never exposed my story to you, and we expose stories to each other our whole lives. We really get to know
Mhm.
each other. So to come with that story, it was tough, but you help make it easier because you come back with like some loving, responsive answers and real, true feelings that helps.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And I think that this story and what your role with it is, your purpose, I think that's still unfolding for you, and I think it's
Yes.
big. You've done a lot for a lot of people, and I think fostering connections will continue to do that, and
Mm,
it just feels like, to me, there's more.
yeah.
So, I look forward to, tracking that with you and, coming back on the show when you've got when the film's out probably or the
Yeah,
book's
I'm
out.
I'm I'm excited to come back and
Oh, I
unfold, Laura, and share what I
Yeah.
have like, how I've connected all the dots
Yeah.
because, Laura, the dots are there to be connected, and you're so right. The fostering connections is, it's gonna be huge. It's gonna
Yeah.
be huge. But I feel excited about literally, imagine this, being the face of as a foster child, being the face of the foster care, you know,
Yeah. Mhm.
agencies, and with this, with what I'm doing and what I'm giving back, and, I think there's so much more in there, like, as I said, that I think I can be very instrumental and very helpful with, and, I'm just excited to get to know that.
Yes, and people need to hear your story. They need to hear about the loving, positive, um, you know, lives that foster kids can live with the right parent, the right foster parent and the right conditions. So those are the stories that need to come
Yeah.
forward.
And at the end of the day, Laura, what I want to say and what I want people to feel and them to feel, people that have are foster children are just in that position of like carrying other people's stories or other people's shame and this and that. It's like, just letting it go that it's okay.
Yeah,
Just that simple. It is okay.
that's right.
It's okay to let it go. It's okay to say, I feel shame, and that's a very strong emotional word, but there's a lot of positive in that too, because
Mhm.
when you're letting that go, and after a while, you feel the strength, and and that's when your superpower starts happening. You
That's
know.
right. That's right. Fritz, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing everything that you share and sharing who you are. I love you. You are the best. And we're gonna keep hearing about this, and you're gonna keep doing good in the world. So thanks for all that
Um,
you do.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you for having me. I know we've been trying to get on each other's calendars for a long time.
Long time, but I'm glad we waited because
You're
there's
right.
a lot
You're
that's
right.
happened.
This story's been unfolding. That's just amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.